Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Indie Alaska is an innovative weekly web series capturing the diverse and colorful lifestyle of Alaskans. Real stories of everyday Alaskans at work and play. Supported in part by Alyeska Pipeline Service Company.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. Up first, the fire danger, today's fire danger, high now or extreme enough for a red flag warning here in the Matanuska Valley today until about 10 p.m. tonight due to strong winds and humidity's kind of on the low side. Winds anywhere from 10 to 20 miles an hour, possible gusts to 30 miles an hour occurring up in this area until later on this evening. Then they'll die off and the warning will end. Otherwise, for today's breakup map, look at things. Of course, the Porcupine Yukon River is all still mostly ice, and the Kuskokwim showing a couple areas of marginal openings here, that turquoise light blue area in that zone, and then back farther to the northeast, King Salmon area or Bristol Bay down here, those just about all open now. And of course the Susitna Valley or Susitna rivers and the tributaries not really moving much, but the Tanana River, again, tripod going down yesterday, so areas of movement along there, mostly from about Nenana back to the east. And for the satellite imagery, you can see this very slow moving frontal boundary right along the North Gulf Coast and then extending down off the Panhandle. That's lying almost parallel to the wind flow aloft. We got upper level low pressure down to the south of Kodiak there, and east-southeast flow becoming easterly on the north side, northeast out here, and then northerly bending back around to the north-northwest. That's bringing a fair amount of moisture into the Alaska or into the unalaska area. Just about continuous rain in every observation since last night here in the area there. More of a fog and low cloud condition creating areas IFR, or just a lot of IFR out here over the Bering Sea and the Pribilof Islands. It looks like that probably extends back up towards St. Lawrence Island a little bit there. And patchy areas of fog along the Arctic coast, otherwise not too bad of a day up there, and a lot of sunshine in over the interior, allowing temperatures to rise well into the 50s, in some cases, as in the greater Fairbanks area, up towards 60 degrees today. But rain here, Kodiak Island, east winds, we're gusting to 40 miles an hour this afternoon, or actually this morning, and during the afternoon hours it'll come down to about 10 to 15 knots there. A little bit of rain catching the Cordova and even Yakutat area this afternoon. Kind of an occasional rain thing going on, but not too bad there at Seward. And on up in towards Whittier. Some rain today as well as Portage. And this mostly hugging the coastline here. Not too much rainfall over the inland areas, and really not a lot of rainfall even out some of these locations like Sitka. Just reporting cloudy skies, but the rain near and just off the coast, eventually going to move in later tonight and tomorrow. And rolling this through one more time, you can see again just some variable cloudiness, mostly, well, from the Copper River Basin. This is just Cirrus. There is a really nice day over in that area. Back up Talkeetna, any ceilings were above 12,000 feet this afternoon, so this stuff definitely Cirrus in nature here. A little bit lower back down toward the Bristol Bay area, lower clouds and some areas of showers or light rain, mostly getting broke up. That westerly flow, or the flow from east toward the west, getting broke up by the Aleutian Range, Southern Alaska Range areas. And actually you have one more loop here to go through, but again that area extending back to the west there. And you can see the whole flow pulling northwestward, so not much of a push off to the east until tonight. Here's the position this morning of that low pressure area at the surface here south of Kodiak Island. The front off the coast, the rain right up along the coastline there. Again, a little bit getting into Yakutat and Cordova. Rain fell the entire day at Seldovia, but not much at all at Homer. So that front edging a little northward of Kodiak and pushing the moisture a little bit farther to the north. Just some scattered moisture up here in the form of rain or snow showers, mostly over the mountainous terrain, Chugach, Talkeetnas, and of course the western Alaska Range on those eastern upslope areas. And possible light moisture up here over the Yukon Delta, and of course that lower stuff through the Bering Strait down into the Bering Sea here. And for tonight, we'll see the front begins to edge a little bit farther to the east, and that'll be late tonight. So that should push some rain inland as early as the next hour here along the coastal areas. But it'll be a very slow eastward progression there, and even slower to the north, say up toward Juneau and areas on to the north there. It'll take a little longer to get any rainfall into there. About the same pattern you saw today, maybe a little bit of an increase in the rainfall occurrences here right along the coastal areas, but really no change here from southern Cook Inlet down across Kodiak Island. Keeping the winds light, but probably some IFR conditions as that easterly wind flow continues there around the low that's parked just south of Sitkinak. Rain and snow showers and brisk winds continuing today, seeing those northwest winds 15 to 30, possibly gusting 35 miles an hour or so from about Adak and Atka across the Unalaska area, as well as Nikolsky. May see a little bit more of a breeze there for the Alaska Peninsula tonight, but tending to come down a little bit over the central Aleutians. You can see some weak ridging coming in behind that, ahead of a broad southwest flow due to this system coming across the Russian Far East. Just some widely scattered snow showers or flurries out over the Bering Sea with areas of marginal and definitely IFR conditions extending all the way back up toward the Bering Strait. Otherwise fair, with some areas seeing a few clouds, other areas seeing mostly clear skies over just about all of interior Alaska. Winds remaining light, hanging on to those small craft advisories at least through this evening up along the North Gulf Coast. They're actually seeing gale force winds this afternoon in a band right through here and of course down into Kodiak Island early, but that lifting northward into the Barren Islands, and then the whole gradient weakening as we go through the evening hours tonight, and probably just looking at maybe 20 to 25 knots to start the day out tomorrow. And looking at Sunday, we'll see the front finally makes its move inland and weakens, so some occasional rain pushing even over to the eastern areas. If not that, then at least some shower activity will make its way eastward and tend to continue throughout the entire day here, because really not a big push to the east, but it should push that moisture band inland. And same thing here along the North Gulf Coast. As you come a little farther to the north, so look for a little more in the way of rainfall tomorrow. The immediate coastline, say from Seward over to Cordova, maybe up into Valdez, and about the same here into Whittier. Otherwise, no change from today here really for south central Alaska, just less wind in the Matanuska Valley. Could come up again in the afternoon, have to watch that definitely through Turnagain Arm in this pattern, almost a daily occurrence that those winds will blow through the arm from the east and cut across Anchorage from the southeast. Especially depending on how much sunshine you get up the valleys there, which should be a fair amount again in the Tanana Valley, allowing temperatures into the mid-50s, possibly up towards 60 degrees, and still the low stuff up along the Arctic coast, keeping the flying conditions a little lower there, but no accumulating snowfall whatsoever. And high pressure making for some pretty light winds now through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, right down into the Pribilofs, with a decrease in the moisture here, but kind of hangs on over the Alaska Peninsula and even the Fox Islands there, especially on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Now we have this system pushing into the western Bering Sea, the warm front trailing down, bringing a little bit of moisture and lower flying conditions into the Adak and Atka areas. And on Monday, we'll see that pushes northeastward, actually the low center tracking northeast, inland there, farther to the west, and the front should bring possibly small craft advisory winds into St. Lawrence Island with milder temperatures. Look for some rain and snow becoming rain and drizzle in the afternoon. Periods of fog, IFR, especially on the southern coast of the island there, and that warm front type weather extending all the way down into the Pribilof. So drizzle, fog, low clouds, say ceilings 500 feet, anywhere from 1 to 3 miles visibility in fog or lower at times. And a very weak trough here, keeping the flow on shore. So look for mostly cloudy skies over the say Bethel on out to the coastline, even a chance of showers here, mostly over the Kilbrook Mountains and a little bit over the Yukon Delta, and some afternoon showers developing again and lingering along the Alaska Range, possibly the Talkeetnas and the Chugach. A little more extensive, could be some moderate showers, especially earlier in the day there along the North Gulf coastal areas, Cordova over to Yakutat, and then showers on the decrease, becoming less showery over the entire zone there with this system approaching. That will probably pull northeastward or northwestward and just graze the coastline on Monday night with chance of rain, not much in the way of wind. It looks like by Wednesday this low will be sitting just east of Kodiak Island there in the southern Gulf of Alaska. Temperatures today down along the Panhandle ranged from the mid-40s to the lower 50s with a 46 at Heidelberg, 52 both at Juneau and Sitka, 50 degrees at Petersburg, 49 and a little bit of rain at Yakutat, and those east winds 10 to 20 miles an hour from the east-northeast. Kind of breezy at Cordova with a little bit of occasional rain, 45 there, 47 over at Seward, 50 degrees in Homer, 44 at Palmer, but up to 54 with a little more sunshine there in Talkeetna, 51 over at Gulkana. And up in the Tanana Valley, temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 50s with actually Delta Junction or Delta at 53, Fairbanks 57 at the International Airport, while Tanana had 55. And those lower 50s extending out to the west, but just to the north back into the lower to mid 40s, mid to upper 40s here. Ambler and Bettles both at 48, 39 Anatuvik, but Arctic Village was up to 41 and Kotzebue showing 42 here. Arctic coast remaining kind of chilly there in the central areas, upper teens, but up to 28 over at Kaktovik and upper 20s also here at Point Lay. 25 at Shishmaref, 20 degrees warmer there on the southern side of the peninsula. Across the way down at Nome up to 45 and 40s for the most part here over the lower Yukon River Valley and the Delta. 37 out at Tuksuk Bay, but 51 at Bethel and a cool 27 at Gamble. For the Aleutians, upper 30s to lower 40s there. St. George Island came in with 35 degrees, 40s for the Alaska Peninsula, right at 40 there at Unalaska. Lows for tonight dropping down a little bit here into the mid-30s out over the Aleutians to near freezing for the Pribilofs, into the upper 20s for St. Lawrence Island, and upper 20s to lower to mid-30s here over much of the interior, except from about the Brooks Range up to the Arctic coast, looking at temperatures running 5 to 15 to maybe 20 degrees. And for the highs tomorrow, back well into the 50s again, a day much like today throughout the Tanana Valley areas with some locations pushing up towards 60. And about that same pattern right down the river valleys there and into the deltas, looking pretty good, mid-50s there, but staying cooler out along the coast. Upper 30s and 40s in those areas and upper 40s here over the southeast coast. Flying weather showing marginal VFR with areas of IFR, mostly off the coast there, good VFR in the interior. And the passes all looking really good throughout the day tomorrow. The only exception might be the eastern entrances of both Lake Clark and Merrill. Rainy though, wide open, windy VFR, Isabel VFR, Tanita, all of these VFR. Portage on the east side, marginal, Chilkoot and White VFR. Freezing levels, not much to talk about here, a couple of 2,000 foot areas and then a bigger push of warm air farther out to the west. Icing threats, chances right here, especially along the Panhandle, kind of diminishing as you come back to the west here to just a threat for Kodiak Island. Wind flow chart basically showing high pressure over the interior and continuing with the low down to the south and the main jet even farther down to the south. 9,000 foot winds easterly, just about all areas, strongest along the North Gulf Coast, both at 9 and 3,000 feet. 25 to 30 knots, 35 knot northwesterlies over the eastern Aleutians results in some moderate chop here for the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Fox Islands there. Otherwise light to isolated moderate and a narrow band along the North Gulf Coast. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
When looking back at American fighter planes of World War II, an impressive record of aerial victory stands out. This is especially true in the later stages of the war, when American air superiority dominated both the Pacific and European combat theaters. But surprisingly, this was not the case in the beginning stages of the war. Early American fighters could not always match the speed and maneuverability of the enemy aircraft that they were facing. To help find a way to improve the aircraft American pilots were flying, U.S. military planners turned to NASA's predecessor, NACA, which they hoped could find a way to help the United States gain air superiority over World War II's battlefields. On the eve of World War II, with the prospect of war looming in the United States, military planners began an exhaustive look at the preparedness and equipment that it would use to fight a war. One area where the United States had fallen noticeably behind to its future enemies was in aircraft. Many of the aircraft that U.S. pilots were flying were much slower and less maneuverable than the aircraft that they would soon be facing in combat. With this knowledge in hand, a concerted effort was made by the U.S. government to find ways to quickly improve the American aircraft situation. Since NASA's predecessor, NACA, or the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, was the preeminent aeronautics lab in the country, a large part of this examination fell to them. NACA researchers knew that they could improve an aircraft's performance by simply reducing the amount of drag the aircraft experienced. This was called drag cleanup. The Navy's XF-2A Brewster Buffalo was the first of many military aircraft tested by NACA in an effort to improve performance. Researchers at the NACA Langley Research Center took only 5 days to determine several key areas in which the Buffalo could be improved. To the untrained eye, the Buffalo appeared aerodynamically clean. However, the wind tunnel information showed a very different picture. Many parts, like the gun sights, the engine cowling, and landing gear on the Buffalo protruded into the slipstream, causing increased drag which slowed the aircraft tremendously. The researchers at NACA modified these problem areas, which increased the Buffalo's speed by an impressive 10%. Such a performance improvement without raising engine power or reducing fuel efficiency immediately caught the eye of many aircraft designers. Extra speed for a fighter plane, even as little as 15 miles per hour, could determine who won or lost in an aerial dogfight. When Langley researchers streamlined the U.S. Navy's F-4F Wildcat, it was able to fly a full 45 miles per hour faster. The F-4F successor, the F-6F Hellcat, was also streamlined, making it faster and more maneuverable, able to reach a maximum speed of 375 miles per hour. This extra speed proved valuable in combat, allowing Hellcat pilots to destroy nearly 5,000 enemy planes in aerial engagements. NACA Langley proved a key stopping point for dozens of aircraft on their way to combat duty in World War II. During 1 month alone in July 1944, 36 U.S. Army and Navy planes were evaluated in detailed studies of stability, control, and performance. NACA Langley tested 137 different airplane types between 1941 and 1945, either in wind tunnels or in flight. While NACA's pioneering drag cleanup work helped save the lives of many American pilots during World War II, it also shortened the war considerably and saved the lives of countless others around the world.
During the World War II era, NACA researchers also worked on a series of wing designs called the Low Drag Series. These wing designs were so successful in improving aircraft performance that they are still being used by airplane designers today. Coming up, we find out how new satellites may help scientists better understand the Earth's atmosphere. But first, did you know that Charles Lindbergh shot down a Japanese fighter in World War II? Although Lindbergh was not in the military, he was secretly asked to teach American pilots how to increase the range of their P-38 Lightnings. During a training mission on July 28, 1944, Lindbergh encountered a Japanese Sonya aircraft. As the Sonya turned to attack, Lindbergh fired a short burst, sending the Sonya down in flames.
Understanding the Earth's atmosphere can be very difficult. A mixture of global weather patterns, greenhouse gases, and airborne particles can make the overall picture for scientists very confusing. To help provide a better picture of how all of these variables affect the Earth's atmosphere, NASA researchers are developing new atmospheric satellite systems. These new systems will not only work to provide a better understanding of the Earth's atmosphere, but will lead to better prediction models. Stephanie Nevin finds out more.
In recent years, researchers have seen an alarming warming trend in the global climate. Reports of increasing temperatures, thinning glaciers, and rising sea levels have led to widespread speculation that global warming is being caused by greenhouse gases that result from man's activities. Climate models that predict the Earth's future climate patterns indicate that global warming could continue to increase if the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere continues to rise. Even though these climate models are powerful tools in predicting future global climate, a more detailed understanding of clouds and aerosols could lead to more accurate climate prediction models. Researchers may be able to determine why the climate is warming, if it is being affected by greenhouse gases, and what we can do to change it. That is why researchers at NASA are preparing 6 innovative satellite systems, which when launched will provide key information about the Earth's atmosphere. 2 of these satellites, Calypso and CloudSat, will focus primarily on aerosols and cloud structures, providing much more information about how clouds and aerosols interact with each other and how they're affecting the atmosphere's radiation balance. I spoke with Lamont Poole at NASA Langley Research Center to find out more.
It's important to study clouds and airborne particles, which we call aerosols, because both of them have significant effects on the Earth's climate, just like greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide. But unlike greenhouse gases, which warm the planet, airborne particles and clouds can either have a warming effect or a cooling effect, depending on their type and their altitude. Because of these complicating factors, it's very difficult to represent cloud and aerosol processes accurately in climate models that are used to forecast the climate in the future. So the data that we will be collecting from CloudSat and Calypso will provide a much more accurate picture of cloud and aerosol processes.
So what are the differences between the Calypso and CloudSat satellites?
They're going to be launched on the same rocket, and when they get to altitude, they will separate into different but very closely matched orbits. In fact, as Calypso and CloudSat orbit the Earth, they will be within 10 to 15 seconds of each other in their orbit. CloudSat and Calypso are going to be flying as part of a formation of satellites that's called the Afternoon Constellation, or the A-Train for short.
The A-Train will actually consist of 6 separate satellites flying in close proximity to one another. Once in orbit, each satellite will cross the equator within minutes of one another, taking specific atmospheric measurements. Although each satellite has a unique mission, the data retrieved will be combined together, providing detailed observations about the condition of Earth and assisting scientists with making predictions related to climate change. By combining information from the different satellites, scientists will be able to gain much more information about the condition of the planet than they could from any single mission alone, greatly improving prediction capabilities. Once these systems are in place, what do you hope the outcome will be?
Our ultimate goal is to provide accurate scientific information to decision makers and governments worldwide so that informed and balanced decisions on how to mitigate or adapt to climate change can be made. And NASA is going to play a very crucial role in this process because of our capabilities in developing and flying new technologies such as Calypso and CloudSat.
NASA researchers are not only studying the Earth's atmosphere from space, but are also making airborne measurements by using specially adapted aircraft.
Welcome back. Look for light winds, mostly from a southeasterly direction, both over the inner channels and out here along the coast, just 10 to 15 knots, a little more easterly up on the extreme north coast. And for Monday, not much change here. 15 knots generally from the southeast, could pick up to 20 knots in the afternoon or maybe even a little bit higher as that next low pressure area begins to approach and actually moves to the southwest of the Queen Charlottes. And 15 knots or 10 to 15 knots, afternoon winds could kick up to 20 knots from the south through Lynn Canal. And then for Cook Inlet, could see easterlies there on the northern inlet out of the arm, up to 20 knots, otherwise light northeast all the way down through Shelikof Strait, 20-knot winds here for the Gulf of Alaska and Kodiak. Then light variable winds here, central Cook Inlet, all the way down across Shelikof Strait. Afternoon winds possibly up to 20 knots from the southeast, and light southwest winds, Prince William Sound. Easterlies, 15 to 20 along the North Gulf Coast. For Bristol Bay, northeast 20 tomorrow. Small craft advisories here across the Alaska Peninsula. And then on Monday, light variable winds for Bristol Bay and also here for the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Not much breezier here, even on the south side, 15 knots from the north-northeast. Fox Islands, 20 to 25 knot winds. Looks like the small craft advisories will begin to die back and be mostly over the eastern areas there of that zone. Westerlies 15 to 20, southwest, coming back up to 25 knots there way out to the west. And then on Monday, southwesterlies here everywhere at about 20 knots, but lighter as you get over towards Nikolsky and Unalaska, west-southwest, only at 15. For the northern Bering Sea tomorrow, light variable winds there under high pressure. Pretty light winds north to northwest, 10 to 15 knots there along the coast, 20 knots there from Nunivak Island down across Kuskokwim Bay. And for the Pribilofs, those winds will become southwest at about 20 during the midday hours of Monday. Otherwise, small craft advisories, again, that system up here coming in from the west, actually sliding northeastward, keeping it windier there. And pretty light winds here for the Arctic coast, although 15 to 20 knots here on the east side, and that'll even be windier, 20 knots for the central coast, brisk wind advisories for much of the east side on Monday. For tonight, this very slow-moving, nearly stationary front doesn't look like it makes much progress, but should begin to nudge some rain a little farther inland later on tonight. Some scattered showers back out to the west, fair over the interior, and then looks like the rain by tomorrow will be inland, but the front breaking up, so whatever occasional rain's going on will become more showery and less continuous. That whole pattern extending right along the coast here with lighter winds and some scattered showers around, especially along the North Gulf Coast on Monday, sunny over the interior. Have a great Saturday evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.